With Trump, there's always been a little give and take, like giving out pardons and taking money from universities. This is just another day. Are you the kind of person who still has a chip on their shoulder toward the college that you couldn't get into? If so, you're in good company.
The Trump administration planning now to cancel all of the federal government's remaining contracts with Harvard University. The expected total of that would be roughly around $100 million.
$100 million, or the cost of tuition for 12 students. Today is just the latest assault by Trump on institutions of higher education in America, with his administration pulling billions in funding from numerous Ivy League universities for what he perceives as the acceptance of anti-Semitic behavior, the perpetuation of left-wing philosophies, and in one instance, MIT offering free classes to one of their janitors. But while Trump looks to take things away from some, he's happy to give to others. As you might recall from earlier this year, this president told our nation that he was on a mission to restore two of the most important things this country had recently been deprived of: law and order.
My administration has acted swiftly and decisively to restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. The problem is the bad guys don't respect the law, but they're starting to respect it, and they soon will respect it.
That's right, the bad guys just don't get it. Except for this bad guy who is actually a good guy.
President Donald Trump has pardoned yet another loyalist who found himself in hot water with the law. We're talking about former Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins. He was convicted on fraud and bribery charges in March, sentenced to 10 years in prison. Well, a jury found him guilty of deputizing businessmen in exchange for cash in his county, but instead, President Trump's pardon power makes Jenkins a free man.
Yeah, let freedom ring. And by ring, I mean Jenkins literally had someone ring this administration to get him pardoned. Jenkins was found guilty of taking $75,000 worth of bribes. And I'm not sure if Trump knows that, because I feel like he'd throw Jenkins back in jail for committing such shitty corruption. Jenkins gave the people who bribed him badges that made them auxiliary deputy sheriffs despite not doing any vetting, which means the Boy Scouts have more stringent policy when it comes to handing out badges than he does. And it wasn't just Jenkins. Apparently, Trump woke up with a case of the pardons.
A report from the New York Times found that the Trump administration pardoned Paul Walsack after his mother, Elizabeth Fago, attended a $1 million per plate fundraising dinner for the president's super PAC. 3 weeks after the dinner, the president signed the pardon, getting Walsack out of an 18-month prison sentence and a $4 million restitution payment.
Remember when you were a kid and you were afraid to go ask an adult for something so you'd have your mom do it for you? Well, this grown-ass man still does that, except he asked mommy to bring her checkbook. Paul Walsack was convicted of tax evasion for siphoning more than $10.9 million in payroll taxes from the paychecks of doctors and nurses in Palm Beach. So he and Trump are like the yin and yang of healthcare. Donald likes to rip money away from the people receiving it. Walsack likes to rip it from the people providing it. But at Paul's sentencing, the judge had a clear message he wanted this convict to take away.
Walsack was just sentenced to prison days before he received that pardon from President Trump. And the judge who sentenced him said at that proceeding that he wanted to send the message that wealth is not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
But with this president, it totally is. America is one big game of Monopoly. As long as you keep handing him wads of cash and respecting his properties, you're safe. And for Trump, pardons are like Pringles. Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
President Donald Trump is set to pardon reality TV stars Julie and Todd Chrisley, famous for their show Chrisley Knows Best. A jury found them guilty in 2022 of conspiring to defraud banks out of more than $30 million in loans. They were also found guilty of tax evasion. The White House says President Trump has already called the Chrisley family to tell them he will be granting full pardons.
Yes, Chrisley knows best, except when it comes to picking plastic surgeons. Look, I kind of get Trump on this one. A disgraced former reality TV star with a bunch of kids who cheats on his taxes? How could he not? But not surprisingly, the real reason Todd and Julie Chrisley got pardoned was because their daughter Savannah is a Trump loyalist who even spoke at last year's RNC.
My family was persecuted by rogue prosecutors in Fulton County due to our public profile. I know, Fulton County, they know how to do it, don't they? Due to our public profile and conservative beliefs. My parents were sentenced to a combined 19 years. I know.
You know, interestingly, one of those boos was actually Matt Gaetz. He boos anytime he hears a number over 18. But this pardon of the Chrisleys is just further proof that Donald Trump is as familiar with law and order as he is apparently with the Chrisley family.
I don't know them, but give them my regards and wish them a good life. They were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I feel like every single person in this country who's been convicted of tax fraud is now trying desperately to get their hands on some MAGA merch because that is a one-way ticket to Pardon Town. What I'm trying to say is that Trump is using all of his political capital to traffic in outright corruption. And I understand that in this era of extreme polarization, it might be difficult to care if this is the guy you cast your vote for. So to that end, join me for a little game I like to call Can You Imagine? Just for a second, can you imagine if Obama or Biden had launched their own meme coin at the beginning of their presidencies, then auctioned off access to it by hosting private dinners filled with anonymous billionaires? And when asked who was on the guest list, Jay Carney or Jen Psaki didn't answer because they said it was on the president's personal time. Can you even imagine? Obama once invited Common to the White House to perform poetry free of charge, and conservatives lost their skulls.
You know what? This is not a good message for our kids. This is not the guy that you invite to the White House for poetry reading. This is a guy that we don't want our kids to listen to.
You see, Republicans are okay with having this common man at the White House, just not this common man. Can you imagine if Obama or Biden had sued Fox News, Newsmax, or OAN for billions of dollars in the same way that Trump is suing CBS because of the way they edited an interview? Or if either of those two presidents threatened to blow up media mergers unless apologies were issued and companies bent to their will? Sean Hannity would launch an America First GoFundMe to save free speech. How about dealings with foreign countries? Can you imagine if Obama or Biden went to the Middle East and came back with a plane? Or if Hunter went over at the same time to nail a deal on a resort with the family name on it? One time Obama bowed to the King of Saudi Arabia. Can you imagine if he bent even further to blow the guy for money? Can you imagine the riots in the streets if Obama or Biden had signed executive orders revoking government contracts with law firms that don't support liberal policies? Or if Democrats in Congress championed the cancellation of all federal funding for Liberty University? The right would grab their pepper spray and zip ties to peacefully assemble at the Capitol. Again, Republicans don't care about the justice system or the rule of law because if they did, they wouldn't be cheering on the most corrupt president our country has ever seen. At the end of the day, there's a pretty easy way to see where Trump's priorities lie. If he really cared about the things that he claimed to care about on the campaign trail, like lowering costs and making rent more affordable and houses cheaper to build and groceries less expensive, he would actually do something about it. But he hasn't. Instead, he spent his political capital consolidating more wealth for himself, notching more deals for himself, and freeing criminals whose rap sheets bear a striking resemblance to his. When he wants to do something, he does it. I mean, a president who didn't hand out a get-out-of-jail-free card to wealthy white people and political allies while the rest of the country gets their healthcare gutted? Can you even imagine? Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.